everybody. This is Hyrule here, representing Otakrew podcast, and today I have a very special guest here. And why don't you introduce yourself, sir?
I'm special. My my name's my name's my name's Joe J. Thomas, and I do voices for anime and cartoons and video games.
Yeah, Joe J. Thomas, or a lot of people like to refer to him as Raven.
Yeah,
What? Can you
Raven's definitely one of the more popular ones.
can you try to do a Raven voice so that way people can confirm that you're Raven?
It's actually not too far from my real voice. So, um, come here, give me a hug.
Yes, yes, yes. But yeah, I'm here to do an interview with Joe J. Thomas, and we're going to get behind the voice actor. But yeah, Joe, why don't you tell everybody where you started? Like, where did you start?
Well, gosh, with voice. Well, let me start. Let me start way back at the beginning, during the Ice Age.
During the Ice Age.
I actually started out. I started out acting on stage in high school. So um, then, somewhere around the end of high school, I kind of had a decision to make as to whether I wanted to do acting full time or my other love, which was computers. So I decided I like to eat. So I did computer programming as my main career and then did stage work at night. So I was leading this double life for years. Um, so fast forward to about 9 years ago, I got laid off from my corporate job, and my wife said, you got a little nest egg, you should flip into doing acting and see how that works. I was in LA at the time, so I said, oh, okay. She said, but don't do on-camera acting. Okay. she's like, she's like, you look okay, but there's lots of guys who look like you. There aren't lots of guys who sound like you. So I,
That's kind of hard for me to believe that there's a lot of guys that look like you. I mean, I don't really see that in Hollywood now.
out here, there's always somebody prettier, more handsome, more capable for on-camera stuff. The voiceover stuff, I could be
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
a South African or a Scandinavian guy or somebody from Wales, and nobody's going to know the difference as long as I can do the correct voice.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
but
So
go
yeah,
ahead.
I started that way and then started landing gigs and got an agent and made my demos and did all the steps you need. But I guess the foundation was 20, 30 years of acting on stage and doing improv comedy and whatever else I could get my teeth into.
So basically, you pretty much did anything that was available to you.
Yeah, I did a lot of weird shows on stage. I think the first show that my wife saw me in, um, I was playing a bisexual Englishman uh, dancing to Motown in my underwear.
You also did David Banner, didn't you? Like you did a segment on there, like the Norwegian eating tour.
Oh, that
Oh
was
boy.
that was on uh, Jimmy Kimmel Live.
Or yeah, Jimmy Kimmel Live.
It was on Jimmy Kimmel Live. Yeah, he did apparently Norway had a marathon 2 day knitting competition of some sort, and they televised the whole thing. It wasn't like highlights. It was the whole knitting competition. You got the sheep and you sheared the wool, and so he put together basically a monster truck style promo for it. And they're like, we need a guy who can do a monster truck sound, but he has to be Norwegian. Okay, I got that. I got that. So yeah, that was fun. That was fun. Got to work with the Kimmel people.
And it must have been really hard to pull off a Norwegian accent. Like, I try, but it just comes off like like I'm trying to sound like the Dracula, like that.
Yeah, you got to slip it off from Transylvanian. Yeah, I had a character that I developed in improv, doing improv comedy, and kind of honed the accent, you know, playing on stage. And his name is Sven Dernblatt Neundorfer Hausenmeyer, but
Oh,
you
some
can call
higher.
him Mister Dernblatt Neundorfer Hausenmeyer. So I took him and I put him together with Sunday, 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 and got what they wanted. So I actually had the producer ask me, he's like, "Are you actually Norwegian?" I said, "No, I'm Lebanese, so there's no connection whatsoever."
So, what was your first work like in anything like video games, commercial? Well, actually, let's slow down a little bit there.
Huh?
What was your first work?
First voiceover work
Yeah.
was I said one word for a coaster in Ohio. The coaster was called Magnum, and that's all they wanted. They wanted the word Magnum. So I went into a booth, and they had me say Magnum, Magnum. Now whisper it, Magnum, about 50 times, and then I left, and they gave me a check, and I went, I could do this. This was way back in like the mid 80s or something. Then I took this long break. I did like a job here and a job there. Somebody wanted a Ronald Reagan impersonation or a Schwarzenegger or a Elvis. My first gig out here, I think, gosh, what was my first one? I think it was a video game, but it was a little indie game where they didn't have much of a budget and they didn't have much time. So again, it was drop me in the booth. I recorded a German character for a while, and then they sent me a check, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's how that works.
So, you said that you did voices in anime as well.
Oh yeah,
Are
yeah.
you an anime fan?
I'm the worst audience member ever. I've done more theater than I've seen theater. I've been in more I've been in more anime than I've seen anime, and I've recorded more video game characters than I've played video games. So most of the time when I get cast in something, um, I'll do a quick hunt online for the series because, well, for anime, it's already out there in Japanese.
Yeah.
So there's all
Subs.
this. There's a ton. I tell you, I don't know how actors did it before the internet because now I can look it up. I can find YouTube clips. I can find Wikipedia entries about the entire series and the characters. Um, so a lot of times I'll get an audition in and I'll go, "Oh, what the hell's Lion? Oh yeah, yeah, yeah." So I'll look
Compline.
it up and then they'll have me come in and
Or
they'll say, "We
Copaline. Yeah, it's Copaline.
Is it Lion?"
Copaline. Yeah,
Coppa.
I've never heard of it.
Yeah. So yeah, I just kind of I do a lot of winging it, which I think they at some point they count on you for that. If they call you in and they have you cast for one character, chances are for anime you're going to be doing at least five or sometimes more. Sometimes I've done 10 or 20 incidental little characters where it's like one line, it's an old guy in the back and he just got bumped. And it's like, oh, and that's all you that was that character. um, but they need you to have that range so that when they bring you in, they can knock out as much as possible.
So, like, do they actually use translators? A lot of people have asked me, like, this question. Like, some of my friends have asked me, do they use actual translators in the studios? And I thought I would ask you.
Oh, well, what they used to do in some of the early dubbed anime, where the voice really doesn't match at all, and the mouth flaps are just kind of flapping. Um, Back then, they got the general story idea from Japan, and then they'd write a script, and then you'd read the script, and it just kind of had to fit in the time, and they didn't really care about the mouth movements at all. Now they actually have they translate the original script, and then they have I've been in sessions where they have people flown over from Japan or from one of the studios up in they have studios north of here too. Some of the anime companies have north studios. They'll bring people down, and they'll have people in the studio who only speak Japanese, and then they'll have like the translator, and they'll discuss what's the best English that fits the way his mouth is moving right now,
So,
and still gets
so
the
they do
story.
have directors like from Japan.
Yeah, they it's gotten very very detailed, especially on the bigger series like Bleach and Durarara and Monster. They'll work directly with the original studio, and they'll try to get the English to match the mouth as much as possible. You know, you're never going to get an exact match, but sometimes they really push hard to make it as close as possible. So the old stereotype of, you know, the mouth is still moving and nobody's talking, or somebody's talking and the mouth's not moving, they try to avoid that at all costs. And
Yeah.
the scripts get pretty complicated. You'll have the script will have each line written out, and the line will have sections that are marked so that you know when the character's mouth is visible on the screen and when it's not, because you can get away with some stuff when it's not. And so the line will be written so that, you know, in the middle of a word, the character's mouth goes off screen, and the first half of the word is said with the character on the screen, and the second half is off screen. So it's a real juggling game to do dubbing. You have to read the script, watch the screen, and also, you know, act, which
Yeah, a lot of people don't. A lot of people that watch anime, they don't really give dubs like the proper what's the word I'm looking for, courtesy, the
yeah,
proper courtesy uh, that it deserves, because it is hard to actually act. And a lot of people just think that all dubs are terrible, and they just go watch the sub, and they
yeah.
never give it a chance.
I mean, I think if I was fluent in Japanese, I'd probably watch the original just, you know, to get the flavor of it, because any translation is going to have mistakes, or it's going to have things that really don't translate from the original Japan or Japanese as well. And but I mean, I think the way the way dubbing is done now is so different from the stereotype that you know, for people out there who are listening and prefer the subtitled, I don't know, give the dubs a chance, especially on the newer stuff, because they put a lot of effort into getting the dubs as close as possible, and they hire some really cool people to do the dubbing work. I mean, um, you know, you've got like Johnny Young Bosch and Yuri Lowenthal and Tara Strong, and you've
Troy
got
Baker.
Troy Baker. I mean, these are quality people who are in that studio, and they're no slouches.
Oh, that kind of comes to my next question. What was it like to work with those people? Like, were you able to build like a working relationship with them? And
I wish
like,
I knew.
you wish you knew.
I wish I knew. 99% of the stuff that I do is just me in the studio with the director and or directors on the other side of the glass, with an engineer who's, you know, doing his magic, and it's one on one. I'll pass people in the hallway and go, "Hey, you recording on such and such?" So it's I know them and I run into them all the time, but uh, we never really get to record together or work in the same room. Usually, there's a few exceptions. Sometimes, if you're doing a new cartoon, they'll bring in the cast to do a table read, or sometimes even do full reads of the script. But that's rare anymore. It used to be the norm, but so I've worked with some If you look at my IMDb, I've worked with some amazing people, most of whom I've never met.
Hmm. So, like, what do you think, like, when it comes to, like, the way the industry is? Like, a lot of people say that, voice acting here in the West isn't really that big. Like, there's, like, a niche, like, when it comes to anime voice acting, but there's a huge growth in video game voice acting. Uh, do you think that uh, comparing it now, like, do you think now uh, is a lot bigger than what it was back then?
I think um, I think there's more opportunities, and I think the opportunities have changed. It used to be like back in early cartoon days, you had people like Mel Blanc or Dawes Butler, where they basically worked for a studio and did a ton of stuff, and they were kind of employed by the studio. Now we're all more or less freelancers. But I think the sheer volume, Pong didn't have any voiceover. Its voiceover's been introduced as a add-on kind of value added feature for video games initially. Now it's actually a draw for video games, so much so that they're getting Hollywood star voices to do characters in video games,
And
and you
it's
go,
mostly because of the story.
yeah, yeah, it's story driven, and people want something more interesting than if you want to play Candy Crush Saga, that's not gonna really break the bank. You're not gonna have a voiceover there, unless it's like winner, or something small
Winner.
like that. Um, but think about there's the rise of video games. I think dubbing overall has gotten much more popular. Not just anime dubbing, but I've done a lot of dubbing of foreign films, films coming out of South America, Europe, China, a lot of films coming out of South Korea, um, films coming out of Russia, and uh, they do really well in their home market, and they're kind of trying to pry their way into the American market by having an actual dubbed version, because I think they realized people don't want to watch a film and have to read while they're watching because you're splitting your attention. Um, what else? Oh, there's the less glamorous side, um, phone systems and corporate narration and medical narration, and if you like character work, there's the whole fiction audiobook fiction, which people make their whole living their whole living off of just doing audiobooks full time. Some out of their house and some go into the studio, but
Yeah.
that's hard. Audiobooks, I've done a few. They're like a marathon. You know, you're in there for a solid week recording one book and jumping between characters and voices and getting all the subtle nuances. But audiobooks are on the rise. A lot of the since now you don't have to buy DVDs or CDs to get content.
I remember
Everything's
that.
streamed.
Oh,
Everything's streamed and downloaded. It's like, how
yeah.
easy is this, right?
Like you have to always switch the DVD, and it's like, like they'll stop in us, like they'll stop in mid sentence, and I'm like, are you gonna finish? Insert another disc? No, no. Or you get a. Uh, I have to agree with you on that. Like that annoyed me. Like with
Yeah. Well, and I think that's a key feature is the technology, both home studio technology, which allows me to record stuff, anywhere, and the whole streaming, downloading technology. I think those two have combined to make voiceover a larger thing than it was in the past, just because now people design something, they're designing their website, their corporate website, and they go, should we have like a little explainer video to say what we do? Yeah, let's hire a little animator and we'll get some voiceover guy to do it out of his home studio and we'll put the two together and then we'll put it up on the website. Okay, well, that didn't exist. Even 15 years ago, that wasn't as common. Now they're everywhere.
Yeah, and it's because of availability. Like, if you if you can find a way to get the product now, then it works out better. Like
Yeah,
it's that's what I always tell people. Like the way technology is and the way it advances, and it keeps advancing every single day. And a lot of people are like, I wish it was back, the same way it was back then. But then I'm like, then you wouldn't really have that much to, possibilities.
yeah, yeah. I am, honey. I'm going down to Blockbuster. Do you want me to get something for you? 'Cause I was just gonna get a horror or an action picture. Did you want like a, rom-com of some kind?
Be like, yeah, I could go to Blockbuster, but how about we settle with Netflix?
Yeah, yeah. Hey, it's on. Okay, I'm done.
But like, how hard was it for you to get into like dubbing, like for video games? Like, how hard was it?
Um, well, if you don't count the 25 plus years of theater, it was easy. Um, it's uh, it's kind of a trick question because there is that foundation there
Yeah,
that you build on. Now, once you have the foundation, then the hard part is getting people to realize who you are and what you can do for them, right? That's the key. It's not, hey, I've got all this amazing stuff. It's what's your project and how can I fill a need for you? It's very customer focused. And then as directors and studios get to know you, then they send you auditions or they bring you in for stuff because you're a known quantity. So I think the first big hurdle is building your skill set. And then the second hurdle is getting your foot in the door and getting known. And then once you're known, then things start to kind of snowball, which is the a good place to be. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
So
because
I think that was the
Namco
hard.
isn't Namco isn't just going to hire you. yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean occasionally you'll run into something where somebody has uh I mean I got one role through a contest, but the reason I got the role is because my audition was good. So the it was Marvel Ultimate Alliance.
yes, I
Um
believe you did the voice of
the Submariner.
Submarine.
Namor.
Yeah, the main guy.
Yeah. Yeah, but that was a contest, and they had it online, and they had live auditions. But even in a contest, they want to fill the role with somebody who they think can do the job. So that when I talked to the guy, he's like, I listened to 2,000 plus auditions before I picked you for one character. They were actually casting like four, two women and two men. So
Mm.
they listened to an ungodly number of auditions. So occasionally something like that comes up. And if you're ready, it's that whole, you know, it, being prepared is the real battle. Then the opportunity comes along and there you are. And it's like, "Oh, you're good. Where have you been?" Then they bring you in and they do stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, who's this guy?
Yeah. Where'd he come from?
Where he come from? But you also did Star Ocean, First
Uh-huh.
Departure. You
Yeah.
did Osmodus. You did Lex Luthor,
Oh yeah.
Mortal Kombat DC Universe.
He was fun.
Yeah, even though a lot of people don't like that game, but you still
Yeah.
had fun with it.
I mean,
That
they
doesn't
they had
ruin you like.
they had to make some compromises because DC characters were involved, and they really didn't
Yeah.
want spines ripped out.
Well, look at DC now. they have Starfire and
I know.
all these characters doing a lot of mature stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, they do. Yeah.
But yeah, you got a lot of you got a lot of back you know y- you got movies, anime, video games. You got a lot of rows
Oh yeah. Yeah. And that's not even counting like the commercial stuff that I do on
and the
the,
commercial stuff.
commercials and promos and weird stuff for Kimmel when they want me.
But who was your favorite character that you did?
Ooh, wow. That's okay. It sounds cliche, but I liked I liked Raven.
The old
It
man.
probably showed up in the performance. I liked Raven. I liked who else? I liked King Leoric in Diablo 3.
Yeah, the
Who's
Skeleton King.
this
I
who's the
enjoyed killing
Skeleton
him.
King? Um yeah, he's like the one where when I run into people, they're like, "Oh, what have you done?" World of Warcraft, Diablo 3. Oh, who are you in Diablo? Skeleton King? I killed you.
I
Okay.
killed you.
But he
That's
had
that's mean.
he had like a voice. He had two voices. He had the Skeleton King, and then he had King Leoric, which they kind of showed in the flashback backstory pieces. And I liked both of the voices. They were both kind of different and creepy in different ways. Leoric went crazy, so no
But that
spoilers. But
that must mean a lot to you though to have people be able to say I got to play as you. I got to play as your character. Or
yeah,
I got to kill you off your character.
yeah, it's a kick. I was at a like an open mic theater thing a couple days ago, and I said I'm a voice actor for video games, and does anybody play? And a couple hands went up. I said, you probably killed me at some point.
You
It's
probably
kind of
killed
an
me
odd
at some point.
introduction, but yeah, I mean that's part of the draw, of course. I like uh, I like an audience. I've always that's this the whole communication thing between the actor and the audience. That's why I gravitated towards stage work initially, because your feedback is immediate, right? You do something or you say something on stage, and you know if the audience is with you, if you feel it, and that it's very different in a booth. It's you and the mic and your imagination, and whatever the directors. Some of the directors are just awesome because they know the whole story arc and everything else that goes with the anime series or the video game, and it's they're cluing you in. At this point you are, the whole let's use Vesperia as an example. um I go in, they give me a general character description of Raven. They liked the voice I did, and then in the studio, it's line by line by line, just my lines. Sometimes they'll read you a cue, but I don't know the whole conversation that's going on. So the director's key. I mean, they'll fill me in and they'll like, you're cold, you're hungry, you've just been exposed as a spy. They give you all the backstory pieces that allow you to do the real acting work.
Yeah, and a lot of people say that, oh, you just go in and you just do an accent and that's it. There's a
Yeah,
lot more to it. You're playing as a character,
yeah, and
essentially.
that's you're spot on. That's a important distinction. The difference between the voice and the character. It's the same as acting on stage or on screen. You just don't have the visual there, which makes it a little harder actually. You have to get everything across. But I mean, I started the way a lot of people start, imitating other people, right? Or other characters that I liked, other cartoon characters. But at some point you kind of have to branch out and go, I'm going to get away from doing just the funny voices and the accents, and I'm going to get into developing a character with flesh and bones and a backstory and everything that goes with it. And that's what shows up in the when you hear good voice acting, that's what's coming across. It's not just, oh, I've got a Scottish accent and I can speak like this. It's the whole, why is he mad? Is he happy? Is he drinking beer? You have to hear all that stuff. So
I
yeah.
mean, voice acting to me, you're not just voice acting, you're playing as a character. Like, you know, you a lot of people just they don't get it, like, cuz they don't really have the experience behind it. And
Yeah.
you do.
Do
And
you ever play you know, role playing games, actual table games
yes,
or uh
D&D.
I mean those that's a perfect example, right? When you're in there playing, your head's in the game. Your head's in your character, right? You're
I agree with
right.
that.
If you're playing a paladin, you're a complete
What's a
polar opposite.
paladin?
It's
Oh
a
god, no,
paladin.
Ultima 9.
If you're right, if you're playing like a good character, and it's the polar opposite from some weaselly little thief, and having that mindset, even sitting at the table rolling dice, you've got the whole uh, background for the character and why he does things, and that's all in your head. It's all going on, and I think table gaming is actually another good way to kind of build your characters. Surprisingly, I did a lot of AD&D and Hero System, and there was one called Space Opera. Um, did that through my probably mid to late 20s.
Yeah, and I'm a wrestler. I mean, I play as a character.
Uh-huh.
I Dustin Baker, uh, independent circuit, best in the world.
Ooh.
That's my character. That's my persona. That's how I go by. I'm not just being myself. I'm being a character, and that that's just that really bugs me. It really does. That
Yeah,
people say that these dub actors they're not good and they need to stop using accents and actually play as a character. I'm like, sorry, go away. No, I mean,
and
don't watch it.
yeah,
It's if you don't like dubs, don't watch it.
yeah. I mean that's the choice, right? I mean you don't have to watch, you don't have to torture yourself and watch. I'm going to watch this and then complain about it.
I'm gonna complain about it. This guy he used an accent.
Okay.
No, it sucks. No.
Plus, some of the stuff is out of our control as far as
Yeah.
what they want. There's times when I've done a dubbed character, and the people who are paying my check and directing me will say, we don't want any accents in this one. It's all standard American English. Okay. And they will have characters who are obviously from other places. You've got a guy on screen who looks like he's from, some Soviet bloc country, and you're reading him with an American accent. And it's like, that's what they want. That's what I do. So there is some amount of control that we don't have over how it comes out. And, that's partially the director, and it's partially the producers, and it's partially the actor. And again, I have the choice in that case to say I can turn down jobs and say, that's not what I really don't want to do that, right? And I've turned down some jobs, but usually it's on the grounds of, if the material is questionable, rather than, I don't want to do a particular character. Um, and sometimes I even do the job when the material is questionable. um, there was a Who was the character in now it's going to slip my mind. There was a character in a Japanese video game, and the original character was pretty creepy in Japanese, and they wanted a direct creepy to creepy translation. And in English, it comes off being really creepy. I think in Japanese, you've got some leeway where they go, oh, yeah, he's creepy. We understand creepy, and that sits over there and it doesn't bug us. In America, it's like creepy is I'm calling the cops.
So, have you been in movies, like live action movies? Because you told me that you did dubs for live action Japanese movies.
Oh, yeah. Have I been in like actually on screen movie like my face?
Yeah.
Um, I've done some. I've done a couple independent films back in the 80s.
You did
Uh,
Redline, didn't you?
uh, I dubbed that one.
You dubbed Redline. Oh
I
my
dubbed Red,
god.
I dubbed Redline. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
Redline. I love
I dubbed
Redline.
Redline. Yeah.
Who did
Um,
you voice?
gosh, who did I voice in Redline? Let's see. Let me check my records. The Giant Book of Records.
Oh my god, that guy. Giant Book of Records. You did a robot voice, right?
I did oh wow, I did a bunch of I did okay, if you want the actual list, I did like Spectator A. Sometimes the characters are just listed. Smoker B, a dad,
Smoker
a
B.
reporter, a soldier, an officer. That was one where I just did a bunch of different ones. Yeah.
But you could say you did Redline.
I did dub did dub Redline.
Oh
But
god, I love
as far
that.
as
It's my favorite movie.
live, I only did a couple films back in the 80s, which probably I'm hoping won't be able to find. Uh, the one that
Treasure Island
I dubbed
TV
that.
series.
That was a dub. Yeah. Oh,
Edge
actually,
of Tolerance. That's a video.
that's the live action one. Yeah. That's the only live one I did. I played Antonio Cerveza, Tony Beer, uh, a whip-wielding Peruvian drug lord who hires a voodoo priest to broker a deal with Russians on drugs. Oh, and there's an interracial romance in the film.
Oh
Just so we
gosh.
can get everything into one film. Uh, yeah, that was fun.
So you did a lot of work. A
Oh
lot of
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
A lot of movies. Uh, so you're very, what's the word I'm looking for?
Uh, versatile,
Yes. Yes.
versatile. Okay. And there's a ton of behind the scenes stuffs. I've got stuffs. I got the
And you're also a
stuffs.
director.
No. Well,
Well,
uh,
of a series called EVIL, Live from.
yeah,
I
kind of.
found that
That's
funny.
that's my play. I've been playing with
I think I
making.
auditioned for that as well.
Oh, did you?
Yes, but
Oh
I
man,
don't think I got it.
I didn't recognize you, I guess.
Uh,
Yeah, I did. It's like a cartoon series, and that's another technology leap. The tool I used to create the animation is called MovieZoo, Muvizu, and I think right now it costs about it's under $50,
mm.
but it does amazing stuff. I mean, it's got limitations because how much are you going to get for $50? But um, just again, it's one of those things where if you have the imagination and you can think of the series or a cartoon, you can actually make it without too much, expenditure. What was I going to? Oh, I was going to say there's also a bunch of things that I've done that you'll never hear or you'll never hear me because either it was done for something foreign, like I'm the voice in a number of museums in Germany and Switzerland, because they wanted somebody with a transatlantic accent, which is somewhere between British and American, um, for their videos and their kiosks and things like that. So There's a train museum, a chocolate museum, a fabric museum. Um, and I've also done celebrity voice matches where um, sometimes what they're looking for is they're putting together like a promo for a film, and they don't want to bug the actual celebrity to record five different versions of the promo. They want somebody who can do the celebrity so they can pick which promo they want to run with, and then they bring the celebrity in to do their lines.
Like, let's say I want you to do the voice of Ronald Reagan. He's a celebrity, but he's also a president. But I want you to do his voice. Like, and you would just go in there and do it.
Well, me and Gorby would talk it over, and actually, Ronald Reagan was one of the first impressions that I did.
Yeah, no, I've done. They're called scratch tracks because they never actually make it to the final thing. But a couple recent ones were I did Steve Martin's voice for Home for a scratch track. I did Harrison Ford for Ender's Game. So it's kind of weird to do stuff like that.
But
And
you're really good at impressions. I mean,
yeah,
I
well,
mean,
I mean, and I've got good competition out here too. There's some real heavy hitters on the. There's one guy who does a spot on. Now I've lost his name. Narrated Penguins. Morgan Freeman does a spot on Morgan Freeman. Like you couldn't tell it wasn't Morgan Freeman.
Is it Z Frank TV?
No,
Or something Frank TV?
no. I know Z Frank. I know Z Frank. He does some cool stuff too.
Yeah.
But this guy's like a professional voiceover promo kind of guy. But one of the things he does on the side is he just happens to do a good Morgan Freeman. So, you know, it's fun to be around people like that too. They're always a hoot.
It is, being able to pull off a voice and just being able to go with it, that's a talent. A lot of people don't want to, admit that. I mean, I could do a good Christopher Walken impression.
Oh, cool. Go ahead. Hit me.
Let me tell you something here, and this might not be good for you, but I'm going to tell you this, and that is that I have a fever, and the only prescription is more cowbell. Yeah, yeah, but I'm working on it.
Well, I mean,
It's rough.
the other thing that I don't think people realize is if you do an impression of somebody, even if it's a bad impression, you can change that into a character for something else. Like there's a original animated film I did called Sammy's Tale. Turtle.
Sammy's Tale.
Yeah, it's I play a lobster in that.
Yeah.
The lobster's insane. He's got three voices, one for each claw and one for his mouth. And so, but the mouth, the main one, actually came from an impression of I don't know if you know the show Green Acres from like the 60s. There was a character on there played by, his name's Pat Buttram.
And he talked like this. Pat Buttram talked like this. He had a bit of a rasp to his voice.
Oh God.
So I used him as the basis for the lobster's main voice, and then I think like one of the claws was the army guy, Arlie Ermy. What are you looking at, son? Kind of
That
sergeant.
sounds like Bass Armstrong.
Kind of a Bass Armstrong. He was fun. That I had to take a rest after that. He's like
He's a
tough.
wrestler.
Yeah,
Yeah.
tough on the throat.
Don't mess with my daughter, Tiffany. Yeah.
Snap into a Slim Jim.
Slip into a Slim Jim. Oh yeah, Macho Man. Yeah. I love Macho Man impressions. But what would you tell somebody who wanted to get into voice acting? What would you tell them to do? Like, I know it's different now, but if it was back then, like, if it was like the way you got in, what
Yeah.
would you tell them?
Give up now. I don't want the competition. No, for me, it always goes back to the foundation, because the technology is going to keep changing, right? Eventually, they're going to put some sort of a hard line that's wired into my head, and I'm just going to think the character, and it's going to come out on video.
Exactly.
But but without that solid foundation in acting and creating characters and getting some sort of live feedback, right? Whether you're doing a stage play or improv, or even just getting feedback from another group of actors, like doing a workout group or something like that, where it's immediate and they go, "That's good, but could you tweak it like this?" Or even if they may tell you, "I'm not believing it. I need to see more X, Y, or Z." You need all that groundwork before you can jump in the pool. So I think people get fooled because of the technology, because it's so easy to sit down, record a YouTube video, and put it up on YouTube. They think, well, I got a YouTube video, I'm an actor, and it's like,
I'm an actor.
it's two different things. You just recorded yourself. I can record a lion at the zoo. He's not an actor. Right? I record my cat. Okay, it got more hits than the rest of my
I'm an
video, but
astronaut.
he's not an
No.
actor either. So I think the answer's still the same.
Yeah.
Do some singing, do some improv, do some stage work, take classes, learn the craft. It's like you said, it's a lot more than the funny voices. It's that acting component that'll get you the job. It's that'll knock them off their feet and make them look at you and go, "Ooh, we need this guy."
So I don't know what else to ask you. I mean, there's a lot I know, but I feel like we've already talked about it. But my last question to you would
Uh-huh.
be, uh, okay, out of everything you've done, all the stuff you've been through in your voice acting career, could you say it's worth it?
Yes, for me. It's worth it because it's something I love doing. If I wasn't doing this, I'd be doing what I was doing before, which is computers during the day to pay the bills and theater for free at night to feed my artistic side or my emotional side. I think I've always had that piece in my head that needed to have some sort of a creative outlet. And I got some, I won't say, programming, I actually think is a very creative outlet, but it's using a different set of skills. So for me, it's worth it. But if you don't love what you're doing, if you are frustrated by the whole process of auditioning and not getting selected, or by having to deal with other people directing you, or taking direction, or being flexible in your time, if it's causing you stress or it's bugging you, get out, because that's the whole job. you know
And that would go for acting as well. Like,
yeah, yeah, on screen's the same. Actually, in some cases it's that in spades, because some of the on-screen stuff, people show up and it's like, yeah, I did a 12-hour day. I'm like, holy crap, I would be gone if I had
because
a
I
12.
did an interview with Mariah Wilson,
Uh-huh.
the girl that played as Matilda.
Uh-huh. Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah, she pretty much told me that it's not cut out for everyone,
Mhm.
but she doesn't think that, like, if you want to go and do it, do it.
Yes.
Just don't get this idea that, oh, you're going to be famous, you're going to be a big star, you're going to be popular,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it sometimes popularity can get the best of you, really. And not only that, some people make it into it and then they don't go really far.
Yeah, I usually use the cake analogy, which is that you eat a cake and the cake has different ingredients in it, and you've got the layers, and you've got the cake part, you've got the icing part. I think when people want just the fame or the fortune, what they want is a cake made out of icing. And that's not very good. It's not good for you either. I mean, at the end, it's kind of an empty prize.
Yeah.
You need the cake. You need to really enjoy the whole journey from A to B to C, the learning, the auditioning, the building the characters, and then the icing is, hey, I get to go to a studio today and play, right? That's the icing. You get to
be a character.
Yeah, you get to run into the studio and people go, okay, Joe, play. It's like, okay. Yeah, that's like the icing. But the rest, it's the cake. And if you don't enjoy the cake, you're probably not going to want a cake full of icing.
Yeah. I was going to fit a Portal joke in there. The cake is a lie.
The cake is a lie.
Oh, gosh.
Portal,
Internet.
great game.
But, yeah. I guess that's pretty much... I guess I've asked all my questions. And,
Cool.
I really had a good time talking to you, Joe.
Yeah, it's fun for me. I hope people get a kick out of it.
I bet you they will. Especially if we're talking about dub and, all that stuff. People
Dub versus sub.
Dub versus sub.
Hey, let's bring out all the other...
that argument.
Let's bring out Mac versus PC while we're at it.
Yeah, console versus PC.
No! No keyboards! No keyboards!
No, keyboard smash. Keyboards. But this has been Hyrule from the Otakrew, and yeah, you can find me here on the Otakrew channel, my main channel, Hyrule Anime. You can also follow me on Twitter at TheHyruleBard. Joe, where can the people find you?
Actually, I've got a creative blog that they can go to called Joe's Dump at joesdump.com. And it has all sorts of things. It's got my animation projects on it and song parodies and bizarre comedy and also some business advice on voiceover and daily things that happen to come into my head. It's basically every Monday I come up with something creative and I post it.
And you can also find him in various video games and, movies and anime.
Kill me! Kill me!
But this has been Hyrule, and thank you guys for watching.
She